Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Buy Black for Life. You know what day it is. It is Saturday. So that means it is Education Saturday. Good afternoon. Good morning. No matter where you are, we welcome you in at this particular time. It is Financial Literacy Month, and we've been getting a lot of questions. Well, let me start by first introducing who I am. My name is Jerome Hurt, founder of Buy Black for Life. Welcome to Education Saturday. Um, I'm going to do an icebreaker for those of you who are coming in, right? If you have purchased a home, tell us in the chat where you purchased your first home and what surprised you about the purchase of your first home. Again, if you purchased a home, in the chat, put what surprised you about going through the process of purchasing a home. Put that in the chat so that we can just have some fun with one another. Welcome. And I want to welcome someone who I have known. I'm not gonna say how many years, but we were high school. We went to high school. She knew my younger brother more than she did me, but we were also colleagues afterwards. And she's been part of our women's roundtable. She's absolutely amazing in everything that she does. And oh, by the way, she has her own travel agency as well. So I want to welcome my friend to Buy Black for Life as my co-host, Karen Everett. Welcome, Karen.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much, Jerome, for the opportunity.
Thank you and welcome. And Karen, I'm going to let you kick it off by reading the bio of our two amazing panelists. You could start with Imelba, and I will take Dr. Jackie, please.
Okay, all righty. So Imelba Martinez is a real estate professional who connects key investors with key real estate opportunities. She brokers and closes complex deals and consults on project management services. Ms. Martinez's passion for real estate started as a young girl, watching her mother manage their multiple dwelling home. By her early 20s, Ms. Martinez owned multiple dwellings in Brooklyn and Queens, as well as investment properties in Florida. She then pursued a career as a New York State licensed real estate salesperson, where in just 2 short years, she averaged $3 million in residential property sales. By the age of 30, Ms. Martinez was established as the corporate real estate broker and partner in a Brooklyn-based real estate firm. For her excellent achievements, she was honored with the Realtor of the Year award, designated by the Brooklyn's Board of Realtors. Ms. Martinez's extensive real estate background includes certification by the active involvement in both Neighborhood Work Center for Home Ownership Education and Counseling, certified home ownership and foreclosure counselor for Bridge Street Development Corporation. She is also a New York State licensed associate real estate broker for Peace of Mind Realty and a certified property manager and licensed New York State real estate instructor. Wow. Her range of expertise includes providing strategic on-site property management services and landlord-tenant relations, marketing and investor relations, advising on real estate investments, structuring investment packages for investors seeking bank-owned or distressed properties, home ownership, foreclosure, credit counseling, designing, coordinating, and facilitating workshops on securing credit and money management, developing educational and promotional materials, and creating masterclass workshops on a variety of real estate topics. She has coordinated and overseen property closings, property sales promotions, and other key aspects of investor sales. In addition, she has hired, supervised, and trained emerging and established real estate sales agents, conferred with lenders, property inspectors, and attorneys to ensure terms and conditions of purchase agreements. She has coordinated and overseen property closings, property sales promotions, and other key aspects of real investor sales. She is familiar with the practices of Department of Housing and Community Renewal Rent Stabilization Component, Department of Housing Preservation and Development, New York City Housing Authority Section 8 program, and New York City landlord and tenant eviction proceedings. Ms. Martinez received her bachelor's degree in psychology from Hofstra University. She is a member of Long Island Board of Realtors and National Board of Realtors, RSA Residential Stabilization Association, SPONY, Small Property Owners of New York, Incorporated, associate member of Institute of Real Estate Management and National Association of Residential Property Managers. Her community service work includes pro bono event planning consultation for the 40-year-old Magnolia Tree Earth Center of Bedford-Stuyvesant Incorporated and professional support for the Project Green Environment and Ecology Homeowner Awareness Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you my college alumni and my soror, Ms. Imelda Martinez.
Thank you.
I need a breath after all of that. Very
I have 2 kids. No, just
amazing. So welcome, Imelda. And I'm gonna jump right in to someone who I could say I love dearly with all my heart. She has mentored not only myself, but also my wife, Dr. Jackie Nieves de la Paz, is the founder of Wealth Enrichment Fiscal Literacy Initiative. Her purpose is to teach others how to become intimate with their finances in order to live an abundant life. Dr. Jackie has a PhD in Human Resources Management Development from Trinity College. She has taught management courses at Metropolitan College of New York's undergraduate program and teaches social work courses and psychology for success at Touro College's undergraduate program and medical program. For the past 25 years, she has been an advocate for individuals diagnosed with HIV and AIDS and their families while working in community-based organizations, managing contracts and budgets. Due to a proven track record in managing community-based organizations' finances, Dr. Jackie decided to start her own business as a life coach, concentrating on personal and business finance, as well as an entrepreneurial exploration. Buy Black for Life. Y'all already know who she is. She's a friend of this group. She's been here many a times. The amazing Dr. Jackie. Welcome, Dr. Jackie.
Thank you so much for having me. It always feels like coming back home to share this space with you. Thank you so much for always thinking of me. I love you too.
Thank you both for being with us. Karen, you want to take the first question? I'm excited about this conversation because, as a financial professional, I always say to clients, wealth is built through ownership of real estate. It's something I always talk about. So I'm excited about this conversation because in this group, we want to create wealth for our members. So Karen, if you want to just ask the first question, and we will take it off from there because this is going to be fun.
Okay, well, sure. I will jump right in. The first question will be for you, Imelda. Many of our group members would like guidance on the process of purchasing a home. Can you give us some tips on that?
Sure. First of all, I think it's just commendable for people when they even put that on their goals, right, to be able to purchase a home. But I always tell people when they're looking to purchase a home is there's 4 things. Know your objective. Know why you're buying your home, right? Is it a starter home? Is it a forever home? I bought my first home and I knew it was a starter home. Actually, I just knew it was an investment because I lived in the basement and rented the 2 floors. So I knew I wasn't going to live there and have children. But I had that objective. So I just knew that's important, right? To know your objective. Secondly, know your number. A lot of the times people go and they purchase a home or they get pre-approved. You may get pre-approved for $1 million, but do you want to have $1 million mortgage? Right? Can you afford $1 million mortgage? Know your number. And this is where Dr. Jackie will come in because you want to know how much, do you need to streamline your expenses? Do you know your income? Do you need to increase your income? Know your number. If you're purchasing a house for around $600,000 and it may cost you $2,300 a month, and you're paying a $1,300 rent right now, can you put in an extra $1,000 a month moving forward? Put that to the side and start preparing yourself for expectation of that purchase. So know your number. Also know your needs. Don't purchase a home and say, I want this, I want that. What do you need? I need a one-family house with 3 bedrooms, a nice kitchen, living room, and a garage. That's what I need. Why? I have small children. I want them to have their own room. I drive. I like to have a garage so I don't have to shovel the snow. Pile the snow in the driveway. I'll get piled up. So I need to know my needs, right? Would I like to have the in-ground pool? Of course. But I know I first need this, right? And know your timeline. Know when you want to move. So when you're shopping, you're not out there like, oh, it's been 3 years and I still haven't found a house. I need to find a house by August 31st, 2021. Because I want to have my kids in school in September. Even though we're remote, I want to be in that school district by that time. Know your timeline. And lastly, looking at a house with a realtor, know your vision. You may walk into a house. It may be, pink bathrooms, green carpet, all types of things are happening in there. But
what's wrong with pink and green?
Naturally, but you may, but you need to know, is that bathroom a good size for my family? Is that living room going to be a good size? Because you will always have to make a change. Even if it's the smallest thing, even if the bathroom is renovated, kitchen's renovated, I need to put new handles, whatever it is, but know your vision. So overall, it's still, you have to have a buyer's mindset when you're working with, to purchase this home. I hope that was
yeah. Good points. Good points. Just the objective of why you're buying a house. Know what your number is. Know your needs and your timeline and your vision. Those are great points.
I love that, Dr. Jackie. A lot of people need to, it's all about finances, right? And I know one of the amazing things that you do is get people intimate with their finances. Mm-hmm. So how do you work with clients so that they can become intimate with their finances so that they can get to a point to purchase a home?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Thanks. So one of the things that I'll say is that finances and money has always been a taboo. People have shame around finances for the most part because of beliefs and projections that other people might have put on them, right? So for example, we all have heard stories around the dinner table from our guardian, whether it's our parents or whoever raised us, money doesn't grow on trees. And so then we start being programmed based on what other people's belief is and then projected upon us. One of the things that I learned early on, my company is now 4 years. And what I learned early on was that I was very adamant, listen, let's get to know your numbers. And people were not ready to look at their budget. First of all, it's scary. Second of all, I don't want to see my numbers. Third of all, everything is automated. I'm fine. Everything is being taken care of. I don't need to know the numbers, right? And so the whole idea of, okay, so what comes up when you're dealing with your finances, right? For the most part, people are not gonna tell you, oh, I'm excited. No, they're gonna say, well, I'm fearful, I'm overwhelmed. They'll start using terms, medical terms like anxiety, right? Now you're self-diagnosing yourself if you've never been diagnosed with anxiety, right? So now you're believing all of these things that you're saying, right? And so it's important to really get into the emotions, right, when you're dealing with your finances, right? If my recollection of putting money in a savings account reminds me of a parent who said, listen, you better save money because you'll never know what's going to happen. And I don't have anything in a savings account. So of course that conversation now is going to bring up remorse, shame, and things of that nature, right? So here you are, this is my cube, right? Here are your emotions, here are your beliefs. Here is what you're trying to figure out for yourself. And this is, I say this in my training all the time. And then this is you with your little fancy pen trying to figure out how you're going to work everything out, right? But meanwhile, everything else is kind of like hitting you and slapping you, right? So you're bouncing around in your square. You don't know which way you're going. So what I tell people is something that Imelda kind of briefly said is know your number. I call it your lifestyle number. Right? The only way you're going to know your lifestyle number is if you do a budget. And, the way in which to come up with your budget is to look at 3 months worth of data, right? So we're now in April. Let's start from January and go line to line to line. What is my rent? What is my mortgage? So on and so forth.
So, Dr. Jackie, what you're talking about is something I always talk about with clients, a cash flow. You want them to be able to show where your money is going.
Right, exactly. Because, and what I do with my clients first is I look at the expenses. I don't look at your income first.
Right.
Because by the time I have you look at your income, you're ready to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge. Because I'm not going to do this, right? I can't afford this. But when I look at your expenses,
right,
able to start taking a grasp of reality, right? So at the end, that cash flow, that lifestyle number, now is what Imelda was saying. If you know you're paying $1,300 for your rent, but your mortgage is going to be $23,000, how can then I bridge the gap? So I have a lot of clients who want to purchase home have two different budgets: their reality and what's going to happen. I even deal with young children who are high schoolers, right? Why are you going to go pay someone else's mortgage, right, when you can pay your own mortgage? So I have them really do the work. Okay, what neighborhood do you want to live in? Oh, I want to live in Manhattan. Okay, you want to live in Manhattan. How much is the rent? Okay, this is the rent. How much is it purchasing property? So now what I'm doing is I'm actually changing the mindset.
Yes.
Because one of the things is being a renter versus a homeowner. The investment part is very different, which then has you bring up a whole slew of other emotions.
Yeah.
So for me, it's important. Listen, date your finances. I always tell people when you're going a date, let's get all cute and beautied up, right? And you make sure that you're ready, and you make sure that your makeup looks just right, ladies, right? Our nails are done, and gentlemen with their bow ties. Sweetheart, is the same thing. Open those bills, because I don't, I'm not the person that leaves the bills on the table, where you leave your keys and there's like 3 months worth of bills. I'm not that person. Hello, I know that because I've been there, right? So get intimate with those bills. Even if they're automated, you want to know how much money is going out and how much money can you afford. Exactly. I love what Imelda said. Listen, you can get approved for $1 million, right? But if you know that when you do that budget, that's not what that budget is saying, don't go and put yourself in $1 million home.
Right.
Unless you've budgeted and you know where everything else is going to come from, right? Because who am I to tell you don't buy it? But I'm telling you, if you know that your 9 to 5 doesn't sustain that lifestyle, then what is your passion, talents, and skills that you're going to monetize? Right? Entrepreneurship is alive and well.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
What you're talking about a lot is basically financial literacy, right?
Yeah.
And so I did some a little bit of research on that, and the numbers were staggering to me with how few people have financial literacy, a working level of it.
Mm-hmm.
In America, it's like only 4 in 7 Americans have it. Worldwide, only 33% of adults are financially literate. And African Americans, when you start breaking it down, the brown people, African Americans, anyone, the ethnic people, their numbers are below the standard or the normal for everyone else. So we really got to do a better job of sharing that information and getting people to the point that they know how to look at their budget, figure out their finances, save, and do all those things.
And that's what, we want to be intentional about that within this group, not only this month. I mean, there's going to be days where we're just going to pop on and we're going to be having conversations about this because it's so vital to our communities. And, Melba, that leads me to you because so many of our group members would like to buy a home, right? And they just don't know the process. As first-time home buyers, Talk about what the process would be for her first-time home buyers, and also any first-time home buying programs that are out there. I bought my first home with a first-time home buyer grant, right? So they are out there. Can you just talk about those things, please?
I definitely can speak to that. Education, and then application. Because you can educate and you're like, oh, I know everything about buying a house, and then not apply. But it's important. I used to work at a nonprofit, a community development corporation, and I sit on the board of a nonprofit located in Bedford-Stuyvesant. And it's very important to find connect yourself to a HUD housing counseling agency. It's a free housing counseling class that they provide and workshops. And then they offer a class. It's an 8-hour course where you can then take that course and use that certificate from after you take the class to help you with a down payment assistance program.
Is that the one that's 8 separate weeks?
8 separate, yes.
I know it very well.
It's 1 hour each.
Please talk about that.
So it's a 1 hour class, and there, all you gotta do is Google wherever you are, HUD Housing Counseling Agency, look in your community, and you'll see a plethora of different organizations, and they all offer this homeownership workshop. And using that workshop, then you get the certificate, you use it towards. So let me just break down the workshop. The workshop will talk, we'll have a realtor, someone like myself would maybe participate. They'll talk about the real estate team. And it's very important to know your real estate team. That's your realtor, if you have a counselor, which they are what I call a neutral party. They have nothing to do with money, so they're the best. Right? They don't care if you buy, you sell, whatever. They just want to make sure that you get through the process. So there's a counselor, there's a realtor, there's your real estate lawyer, there's your loan officer, there's your home inspector, and eventually your home insurance broker. But they'll talk to you in these classes about this information, right? About just breaking it down. And then once you go through that process, connect yourself with loan officers, connect yourself with a realtor. I always tell people, interview the team. The buyers don't realize the power that they have. You leave the table, the whole deal is done. The whole deal. Buyers don't realize, back in 2008 when people were like, oh, I need to close, and they were buying houses with no money down, and they knew they probably couldn't buy that house. If they would have walked away, you would have lost your down payment. But would you have preferred your down payment over years of just going through this heartache of purchasing a home that you couldn't afford, or foreclosure on your credit report? So I tell people education, and starting with the free education first. And then if you want, you can start, streamlining it to education that's going to be coached, that you can get coached through that process. So that's my biggest thing, is just, finding these sources and attending things like today where you can learn more about this process.
And Amelba, if I may ask just a question, how do you feel about, so I'm a Black man, and I want a real estate agent that looks like me, because I just feel they're going to maybe understand my needs a little differently than somebody that doesn't look like me. How do you feel about that?
I'm an advocate for it, but I also, like I said a minute ago, interview your realtor, right? Because a lot of the time, just because I look like you and I speak like you, and I may know your neighborhood and this and the third, you want to make sure that you're dealing with a professional, right? Because at the end of the day, there was times when people who look like me, they may not have done the right thing, but you want to make sure that you are working with professionals, and you ask them, I need to see your license, your card, right? I can say I'm a licensed real estate agent. Anyone can say that. I'm a licensed professional, but you need to see my card. You need to ask these questions so that when you're working with this person who you're going to be working with for several months, it's not going to be like, okay, found a house, you're going to be working with them through the whole process, all the way to the closing. So you want to make sure you're comfortable with this individual.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I did want to add something, just with the know the number part. I did, it was very important to me to put that in there, because I wound up getting pre-approved for a property at one time that I could just not afford. I wanted to live close to my mother. I wanted a new construction in Jamaica, Queens, and all these different things. And I got approved. I was like, woohoo, got approved. I was so excited. And I realized that the mortgage was just not, I couldn't afford the mortgage. You know, I was in my early 20s, just starting my new job. And, you know, to God be the glory that the loan officer was nice enough to be like, you know, well, because once your loan is accepted, that means you're moving into contract. I was already in contract. I can lose my down payment money. My $10,000 that was on escrow.
Right.
And he was like, you know what, I'll decline it. And he declined it. And thank you, because I would have been like, I wanted to live in the basement. That was my goal. You know, I have not everyone's goal is to live in the basement. But, but this new construction was a cellar. It had a cellar. Where was I going?
Got you.
I had a similar experience with my very first home. I could afford the house. It was a new construction, and all the numbers worked out. What I missed is in Queens, right? I'm living next to the subway, one fare zone, and I could afford that. What I did not calculate is when I moved to New Jersey, my monthly transportation to get to work budget was a quarter of what I was paying to get to work from New Jersey.
Wow.
What I paid for a month to get to work in Queens became a 1 week payment in Jersey to get to work. So there were days that I'm sitting here, I cannot afford to go to work. I don't have the money to pay to get to work. And I was devastated. So it took a while. You know, I had to cut out some things and reorganize, but there are lots of expenses that you need to think about. And commuting expenses was one of the things that it didn't cover. You know, it didn't come to my radar. So, you know, with that, I think I want to kick a question over to Dr. Jackie. Can you share with us your experience when you purchased your first home?
Well, so let me just share real quick what you said about the budget. That's why I teach people to have another budget when they want to purchase a home. Because for me, the experience was when in New York, we didn't pay for water.
Oh, preach that. Preach that.
You had to pay for water, and my first water bill for 3 months was $1,000. I thought somebody's robbing my water. So it's right. So that's with that lifestyle number and making sure that you have a little extra money. So yeah, I can relate in terms of Melba's response with the realtor. And I thank you, Jerome, for asking that question. Is that, listen, people, let me tell you, when you purchase a home, no one can tell you have to stay with no one you don't like to work with. This is the difference. You see, we went from a renter's mentality. Right. Now we're going to a home buyer mentality. People, you're hiring people. Okay?
Preach that.
You're hiring people. So if, let's say, listen, I don't like this ABC about you, I don't need to stay with you. So let's be clear. That's the first shift. The first shift that I recommend you do is, what's the difference between me being a renter that has to stay with whatever that landlord gives me and be blessed if I have a good landlord, but if I have a slumlord, oh my God, I'm praying for the lease to end so I can move out. Versus, I'm going to be an owner now. Yes. That means I am investing my money, whether I don't have the money, right? Or the bank has the money, but is my buying power. Okay, so remember that shift by itself is important. Why do I say that? Because I didn't know any of that. The role model that I had was my dad. Now I want you to imagine my dad. My dad now is 81 years old. This is a man who came from Puerto Rico, was an apprentice, learned everything he had to do, was able to purchase his factory and have a factory for years, sold it, retired at 52.
God bless him.
Right? Living from his earnings and his investments. This is the example I have, right? Did we ever talk about finances? No.
Of course not.
Right? All he would be so proud of is, I purchased my home, 3-family basement, for $80,000, and I paid it in full in 6 months. This is my mentor. God help me. So what did I do? Here I am working full time. I've had my 9 to 5. Okay, at that time I was also doing my PhD. So I would work at lunchtime, and the money that I would make for at lunchtime was my degree money. And then, because I'm Superwoman, y'all that know me, you know I'm Superwoman. I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me. Little did I know I'm taking myself out. So then I got from the same company. So I work from 8:30 to 4:30. Lunchtime, I do support group, right, for substance use. And then at 4:30, I run to the other place, which is the same company. They loved me. Oh my God. And they love my sweat. And then I would then supervise a 1035 medically supervised program, which is kind of like a similar to methadone program for young adults until 9:30. So guess what? I fit the profile. I'm working hard.
Right.
Right? I'm working real hard.
Right.
So I am on top of my game. Little did I know. Here I am, 7 months. I'm burned out. I remember getting to work one morning and answering the phone and saying, "How did I get here?"
Wow.
Mind you, I had to take a bus, walk down 3 flights of stairs, take a bus, get to work, say good morning to the doorman so they could let me in. I don't remember any of this.
Wow.
Right? So why am I telling you this story? Because you get to pair yourself up with people that will support you. Another blessing for me was that I got my first home in a lottery, which meant I didn't need a realtor. So I thought, right? Because again, I wasn't educated. Who was my mentor? My dad. My dad purchased a home. In 6 months, he paid it off.
Right.
Right. So here I am, like a hamster in a wheel, who's going, going, going. And one of the things that I will tell you, I always, when I was in college, believed I got scholarships. And when I got money, I would look at people that would say, "Oh, I went on vacation, or I bought this, my bedroom set or whatever." And I was like, "No, I'm going to tie it up in a CD because I'm going to get interest in that money so that when I have to pay the money, then, that's paying itself." This is my little brain, playing with investments and whatnot. And so I had a CD. Now, because I am a chicken, sometimes when it comes to my money, I don't like to tie my money too much, right? Or too long, because I don't know if I need it.
Right.
So I started with the habit of having a CD, right? Every 3 months it would roll over, right? So guess what happens? I had the money for the down payment for the house. It rolls over a day before.
Oh no.
Ms. Nieves, I just want to let you know that you got the house. I'm like, "Oh, great. I got the house and this is the down payment." I'm not doing it. Why am I going to do it? My money rolled over. I don't feel like paying anybody $200 as a penalty fee because, now I have to pay penalty to touch my own money. I'm not giving you $200.
Yes.
Crazy. You're out of your mind.
Right.
Again, my emotions. I was justifying not purchasing the home.
Wow.
Because I was afraid that
to lose that $200.
No, $200. Come on, I can go out and buy coffee for $200. You know what I'm saying?
What coffee you buy for $200? I need to check that.
That must be a strong coffee.
Well, we can go have dinner. By the time we finish cocktails, that bill is,
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
It was the underlying fear that I have 2 children, even though I'm married.
Right.
This little girl doesn't go to her husband at the time to say, "Honey, you think we should do it?" No, she calls her dad. "Daddy, you listen, you don't understand. You have to promise me that if I can never pay that mortgage, that my children will not be homeless."
Wow.
That was it. And even after I said it, I'm like, "Who's talking?" Right? But that was my underlying fear.
Right.
I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Remember, I was doing everything right. I was working hard. I didn't have a realtor because I didn't need one. And whose mind, right? Because everything was so laid out to me because no one educated me. Now, had I had a Melba in my life, and Melba would have been able to say, "Listen, you could do A, B, C, and D," right? But because it was a lottery and because I still had the renter's mentality, I went with whatever they gave me.
And the example of your father.
What? Daddy couldn't go wrong. You kidding me? And then, no, that wasn't it. So I buy a 2-family house and I'm like, okay, I'll buy the house. My husband and I and my kids would come to the house eat Chinese food. No, we knew this. We had a box. We would sit around the box, eat Chinese food, clean up the house, and then go back home. We did this for like 2 weeks. My father said, "Do you understand that you're costing me money? You have a home. Go home."
Yes.
Me coming home meant that now I'm an owner.
Yes.
Right. And then the other thing was that I was like, you know what? I bought a 2-family. Listen to this ridiculous thing. I'm so afraid about what people are saying out there about landlords. I'm just gonna put a spiral staircase. Yeah, no, really. It was gonna be a huge house. And my father said, "Why did you buy a house?" I'm like, "Well, because he says, no, you get to allow your tenant to pay your mortgage."
Amen.
There you go.
I'm like, man, it's crazy. And I said to him, you know what I said to him? I said, all right, bet. You want me to have a tenant? You find me the tenant.
Tell us about that tenant, Dr. Jackie.
Bet. He found me the tenant, the best tenant I ever had. Best tenant I ever had.
Only
Listen,
God.
when I tell you that you could eat soup off a rug, no, really, like this man, like even the rugs, you know how it has the tape?
Yes.
He was like, no, for 2 years, he left that tape on there because he took care of my property more than I took care of it.
Wow.
That's a
That
blessing.
is unusual.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have the opposite stories, but yes, that's amazing.
Me too.
I have
No.
too.
That's a blessing.
Me too.
Let's be
You
clear.
know,
That's a blessing.
and I'm grateful that was my first experience because if I had the experience that I had a tenant after that, I probably would have told my father, you see, this is why I didn't want a house.
Got you. Yes.
But
Yeah.
God had better plans and bigger plans, right?
Always.
So,
Always.
yeah, so listen, fear is going to creep in. It's a big ticket item. You're literally growing up.
Yeah.
What I tell people is like, you can't plan for everything that's going to happen in a house. You can't, but you can learn from others. It's like having a baby, right? We all hope for a healthy baby, but we don't know what the baby's going to come with, right? And so we get to really like shift your mindset. You're no longer a tenant. You're now a homeowner.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to ask everyone, even you, Karen, this question because I'm always saying to clients that wealth is through the purchase of real estate. That's the quickest way to generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Melba, I'll start with you as a real estate professional. What are your thoughts about that particular statement?
I love generational wealth in that conversation, and something similar to Dr. Jackie. If it wasn't for my mother, single mother who came from Puerto Rico, who was determined to be a homeowner, I don't think I would know anything about real estate. She was determined to purchase a home, and she purchased a home, and I call myself the landlord kid because I was just like making friends with the tenants and didn't know what was happening on the first of the month while they weren't talking to me. But but she was it was a great opportunity, and what my mom did, even though she lost her home, our first home, she was able to purchase other homes. And so in my early 20s, she came to me, she said, do you want to own a home? And I'm like, yeah, I want to own a home. Why not? You get some money. Right. So she pretty much, there was a home that we owned. It was a 2-family home. And she said, if you can manage this property, then obviously with her assistance, she's still assisting me to this day, you will be able to get this home. So it was a 2-family home I still own today. And it was one empty apartment, and then an apartment with 4 men, 3 sons my age, and one and a father who wasn't in a good space. And I was able to manage that. And I say this story because she shared with me her what she knows. She also encouraged me to take classes So I took, classes. Who remembers? There was a bunch of classes out there. There was a place that's no longer the annex, the learning annex. I don't even think it exists anymore in New York. But the learning annex, and I was just taking classes on how to be a landlord. And this is before I didn't purchase a home, so I didn't live there. I still lived at my mom's house, but she was teaching me on how to become a landlord, how to be a property owner. And I think it's very important. So when I say generational wealth, I think it's important. But there's one thing that we must know besides the most important thing, which is asset protection, is to teach. Because I've also been in this space as a foreclosure counselor, where I've helped hundreds of people to keep their home or inherit a home with no mortgage. All they had was to pay their taxes and insurance, and they didn't know I had to pay taxes and insurance. I wasn't taught that. I just thought, I owned the house and that's it. So it's very important in generational wealth to educate. A lot of the times people of color, Caribbeans, or all of us, we kind of like, that's my house and this is it. I'm not telling you about the bill, I'm not telling you about anything. So now what I do with my kids, I take them to pick up the rent. I talk to them about repairs. I talk to them, the word mortgage is not a foreign word for them. They understand principal, taxes, and insurance, and PMI, and all those different things. They may not fully understand it, but they know the words, and it's building their vocabulary. So it's very important. When I say generational, I think it's important, but you also need to teach. You can't just assume that and you also have to assume, do your kids want it? I'm not the only child. I have other siblings. They're not interested. So you have to know your kids and your family if this is something that you want to, build on. So that's my.
Thank you. No, that especially that teach part, because and again, it's all about literacy, right? I mean, and not only literacy, but it's very important that. So, Melba, your parents owned, and you saw that, so you knew that that's what you wanted as well. It's so vital that when we're seeing that, we want to be that. And I think we must not miss that piece. But as we're being that, we need to teach that, the good, the bad, as well as the ugly, because I love home ownership. There are some things we have to do as homeowners that are vitally important as well. So
I agree. And just even the opportunity that I got, I left my mom's house to my house. I didn't have to rent for anybody from anyone because I knew what the rental process looked like.
Yes.
And so I had the opportunity with my mother's support to be able to purchase my first home and live there without having to rent. The mortgage was being paid by my renters. And that's all the things that she taught me and she instilled in me, and I will instill to my kids.
So you're passing that's generation. Knowledge is also generational wealth.
Exactly.
I love that. Dr. Jackie, what is I talk about it ad nauseum, right? Because so many people want generational wealth, but especially in communities, the BIPOC communities, we want to look rich. Right? I mean, if the clothes you have on your back are more than the rent you're paying in your home, you're only looking rich, or you're only looking wealthy, but signs of wealth is not wealth. Please share with us your thoughts about that.
Absolutely. Listen, my mom always taught me, you see, my mom, she was like, oh, I love that blouse, or I want this. My mom taught me, she never gave it to instant gratification. Ma, I want this doll. And she would purposely wait like 3 months, 3 weeks, or 3 months later and give it to me. And I was like, well, I don't want that now.
Right.
I was like, I don't want it. It was like, and it's going to end up someplace else. So I didn't realize what she was doing until later on. Right. I'm of the belief that, listen, you get to develop generational wealth. You get to listen to the people that are successful and those that aren't. You get to learn from those that aren't more so than those that are. Right. Because those that aren't teach you the pitfalls. Right. I believe in generational wealth in that My dad taught me that. He didn't sit with me, but he modeled it for me.
Right.
And I will share, my husband's family has a house, and now this is people that don't know anything. At least we thought, right? Because we're thinking our great grandparents don't know what they were doing. They had land, and that was it. They made it into an estate, so everybody in the family can live in there, but no one can sell it.
Wow.
So we get to educate ourselves on what is an estate, right? What does it mean? I will tell you that I went to the reading of my father's will. My father's alive, he's 81. And he says, I want you there. And I'm thinking, why am I doing this? And it was the most heart-wrenching meeting I ever had to attend. But then after that, I was so grateful that he is again teaching me what wealth looks like.
Yes.
And I couldn't care less if all he had on his will was the handkerchief that he used when he was 18 when he came to this country. But for him, it was something that was dear to his heart, right? And so even that, even as heart-wrenching as it was, he's modeling to me that I get to do the same thing for my children. Now, one thing that I'll tell you about education that's key. After I purchased my home here, I started watching all these shows, these buy a home. I always went to Florida. And I always wanted a property in Florida. And it so happened that this time that we went to visit, the homes were low. And that was because we had our first recession. So that of which Imelda was talking about in the early 2000s, where people were like, signing on dotted line, and they didn't realize they could afford it. Unfortunately, I benefit from that. How did I benefit from that? Well, because through the shows that I was watching, I said, I reached out to a realtor in Florida, and I said, I'm on vacation. You have 1 day. You have 1 day to show me how many houses you want to show me, because I'm ready to buy. That was it.
Simple.
I already have the intention. I'm going to buy. I'm going to buy. And so she showed me all these homes, and I purchased. Now, the thing with Florida is that totally different. You don't need an attorney, whatnot. So my fear is kicking in again, right? So here I am. I'm going to do this. And then I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
Right. And so the realtor, the person that came to deliver the paper, had to stay with me for 45 minutes to do the closing. I called the broker in Florida, and I'm like, you're going to read to me line by line. Line by line. Now, what I didn't know was they used to call him the Phoenix. Because every time I had a question, I would call him, and then my fear would get me so angry. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? You need to explain it to me. No. Right? And so the joke was that he would blow up like a phoenix and then come back together after I got through with him. Because I was with my nerves. Like, again, you need to guarantee that there's nothing in this document that's going to have me forfeit.
Yes.
Long story short, we have the property in Florida. Now it becomes addictive. Because now I learn what being an investor is. Not in my first home, but in my second home. Because now that's the terminology that's being used. Now you're an investor. The realtor that I had, I didn't have one, I had two.
Right.
Right? The realtor that I had kept following me, and I was like, no, not that. She would say, Jackie, remember, you're not living in it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, but if I can't live in it, nobody else can. Again, right?
Yes.
And so purchased the home 10 years later. All I heard my daughter when she was younger, she's 22 now. She's going to be 22 next week, is, because my house in Florida. And I'm like,
I already know the look. I already know.
She said it a little too many times for me. And I said, girl, what house in Florida? She says, the one you, I said, you need to learn how to develop your own wealth. Right. You're not going to bank your wealth on me.
Generational wealth. Come on.
No. I'll teach you. Yeah. Because what happens is I wanted her to learn that she too can do it.
Yes.
Right. Is the education piece. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's going to happen to me. Oh. I'm not sourcing it, but what's to say I got to sell the house for something?
Right.
You can't source your wealth on me. Like, you can't think that you're going to get what I'm going to give you.
I'm going to teach you to fish, but I'm not going to get the fish.
Exactly. And so listen, I bought the homes with the intention. I have 2 kids. It's theirs.
Right.
But I'm still young. I'm only 25. So, I don't know what to have. What if I want to sell them both and buy something else, right? Like you can't, that's not what I'm teaching you. I'm teaching you that you can have it too.
But the goal is also that they get their own and they're like, thanks, mom, but I'm good. I have this. That's the always.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because my own son at 27 bought his first home. 27. Has his first home. My daughter bought her own apartment. So and my son in Japan, I don't know what that dude is doing. He can do whatever he wants to. I call him the king. But honestly, that's the desire. Like, yeah, I may have bought this for you, but the hope is you're gonna be like, nah, Dad, I'm good. I have this, and I'm good with what I have. So I love that. I love it. So thank you. Karen, how about you? Generational wealth. What we talk about it in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've been a homeowner more than one time over. What does that mean for you?
I'm sitting here thinking, and I got to say that I think the generational wealth is the education that's passed down. It's not necessarily, the real estate. Real estate is hot, no doubt about it. If you can get some real estate, you absolutely should. But more importantly, it's the education. It's what's instilled in you. And I'm realizing that both of my parents instilled financial literacy, and I'm using the air quotes with that, in me at a very early age. I don't think they understood what they were doing, but sitting here now today, it resonates big. So
Right.
First thing was my dad worked for New York City Transit. And he was sharing with me that one of his coworkers, every week they got paid. He bought a U.S. savings bond. Now that's probably a foreign term.
You're
Whole
going
lot of people out
way
there,
back
right?
now.
Way back. Do you know that the down payment for my first home, I had a house built in New Jersey, was from U.S. savings bonds.
Wow.
Because what I then did, I was living at home. I had very good jobs, right? I had no expenses. I'm going to get to my mom in a minute, but I had no expenses from my father.
Right.
So every week I got paid, I purchased a bond and I saved them. Back in the day, your aunts would give you savings bonds for your birthday or Christmas or whatever. Save them. I am not exaggerating to you when I say that I had a wad about this thick.
I know it well.
Savings bonds. I took them to the bank because now I'm ready to cash them in because that's my down payment for my first home.
Yes.
There were so many bonds that the bank made me leave them, make an appointment, and come back because they did not have the personnel to actually sit there and process those savings bonds. That's how many I had. So that's lesson number one that I got from my father. And again, I don't think he understood that was financial literacy because I was being taught to save, right? Right when I got my check, the money's coming over, I got a bond coming. The second thing was from my mother. Part-time job, still living at home. Daddy didn't care. I'm daddy's little girl. Mommy was like, oh, no. You working? You need to pay. You need to give me some money and it's, of course they didn't need it, right?
Right.
What he was teaching me was financial literacy, budget,
Responsibility,
and save, and responsibility.
Yes.
Right? She did not need that money to run the household, but I needed to learn that nothing was free, right?
Yeah.
That you do need to pay. And the second thing that my mom taught me is when I got my first, really big job out of college, she taught me the art of saving in 401k. Pay yourself before you get your check. Maximize it.
Yeah.
So in the early days, right, I'm getting paid and I'm maximizing my 401k, and still my expenses were really relatively low compared to what I was bringing in. I would max out my savings, my 401k investments by like August of every year.
Yes.
I could not put any more money into my 401k because I had been doing that all along.
Got to the maximum.
Correct. And so those things were kind of the foundation. No, we weren't rich when I was growing up. We grew up in the same hood, Jerome, right?
Yes.
You're not rich.
Yes.
But I learned how to budget my money and I learned how to save. And then I'm able to then go out and get the things, that I needed to buy. So for me, generational wealth, and I know that this is about, in real estate but the financial literacy part is what resonates to me. The generational wealth are the lessons that I got from my parents and how to manage and budget my money and make it stretch. And that's what I think we need to pass on to our
Love it. And if I could, I'm just going to add on real quick because we're coming towards the end, and talking about the 401k. When the company that Karen and I worked with actually was moving my family from New York to Charlotte, we were building a home, and in order to close, I had to wait on the closing of the house in New York. So I actually borrowed against my 401k so I could close on the house in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And that house closed in New York, I could pay that loan back.
Cool.
I use my 401k for so many things. It's not money. And it's just another investment vehicle to help you. So thank you for that. As we wind down,
add one more thing real quick.
Please
that for some listeners that may be new to the terminology of 401k,
we're gonna simplify that. Yes.
Yeah. I also want to let you know that if you are an entrepreneur, you can go to your local bank and get an IRA.
IRA.
Okay. So, and I don't know if Jerome, you're going to speak further to that.
Yeah.
But these are things that, your 401k is offered by an employer. And your IRA is something that you can manage. There's many IRAs where you'll pay the taxes or not pay the taxes. It's solely up to you.
As well as set plans, as those are things that I'm going to all this month. Dr. Jackie, I mean, they're going to get sick of me and you.
Oh, I know it. I know
financial
it.
literacy.
And it's needed.
Listen, I know I deal with Black and brown clients, right? From the time I started my career in finances, right? To the point I started working with wealth clients. And I saw the knowledge and education with the non-BIPOC clients as opposed to the BIPOC clients, right? So I knew very early in my career, I needed to teach. I need to teach. So that I'm intentional about it, and Dr. Jackie we've already talked about another date for us to, and I hope Melba, you'll want to come back that we could do more and dig in more, because I think so many of our members need this. But I'm going to ask one final question of Dr. Jackie and Melba, and either one of you can delve into this. What additional tips do you have for anyone who is starting the process right now? They're in the process of purchasing a home. Any links or websites and things of that sort that you would recommend for anyone as they're getting to the process of purchasing a home? They think they're ready, they know they're ready, and now they're ready to move on it. Can either of you tell us that, even with the financial piece, Dr. Jackie?
I would say, listen, you have a resource right here. And Melba, her bio speaks for herself. I know her personally. Actually, we started venturing out together to see how we can support people with buying their first time home. So you have an amazing resource right here. Reach out.
Thank you.
And I am clear that if she can't support you, she's going to have the answer as to where you're going to go, right? What I would say is, for me, there are many apps out there. Be mindful that you get to take control of the apps. Don't get too many of them, because if you're not disciplined to look at your money, chances are you're not going to know exactly how much money you have or what you're spending. There isn't a site. I don't get any money from it, so I'm not promoting them for the sake of me promoting them. But it's called Credit Sesame. Sesame. It's a great website. They will tell you even a grade of your mixed credit. okay? It's important for you to know, and Amelva will share with you when you call her about your debt to income ratio. If your debt is too high to your income, they're not going to look at you. And so I can support you with looking at your budget and really seeing where your debt is, so that when you go to someone like Amelva can say, oh, okay, this is who I'm going to refer you to. You're ready to buy, right? As opposed to you going to Amelva first and she breaking your heart and saying, you're not ready, honey. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say. It's the reality. I would say take advantage of a resource that's here right now, which is Amelva.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that's why I wanted Dr. Jackie to go first, because you need to know your finances, right? You need to have your budget in order. You need to date your finances, right? And once you have that, you're comfortable with your number, right? And let's call it, like Dr. Jackie said, your lifestyle number, then, and your mindset has shifted to like from renter to owner, then it's time to get out there. But as you're going through that process, like in New York, there's Home First, New York City Housing Preservation Department. They offer up to $40,000 depending on your income, household, and your assets. There are restrictions. You can get up to $40,000 for a first-time home buyer. There's different loan officers, CRA loan officers that you can work with. They also offer first-time home buyer programs, M&T Bank, Citibank. So what I always say to people, and people used to ask questions, just ask questions. What's the worst thing someone could say? No? Okay, I'm not going to work with this person. Moving on. And you can ask the same loan officer in the same bank, and different, you could go to Santander Bank, whatever bank, Chase Bank, whatever bank. But that loan officer may not know the information. So you go to the next loan officer. You need to know, right? And if they're not willing to answer your questions, then you don't want to work with them. I say try a HUD counseling agency and see. Go to one of their workshops. They're free. Learn, apply, learn. Take a look. These are the resources that are here. Dr. Jackie is a great resource because she can help you with understanding your finances, understanding what is blocking you from getting you to that point, from point A to point B. When to purchase a home, why are you still looking to purchase a home 3 years later? Like it's not that hard. You just got to put in the discipline. Bankrate.com. I always tell people to go on that so they can check on okay, how much does it really cost to purchase a $600,000, $700,000 house? Because I'm just giving these numbers out because that's what New York is like. Your minimum first-time home buying house is like $500,000. Right. So unless you go for a co-op, which is fine, that's another starter, a place to start. You don't necessarily have to start at that one single family home, but on average, you're paying $500,000 for a home. So you want to go to know what's my number. Okay, if it's going to cost $600,000 house, how much do I need to put down, right? You can go as low as some banks are offering 3% down payment, 3.5% for FHA. These are different terms and things you need to know. So when you're out there shopping, you understand, okay, this is what I need. So I just ask people education. It's so many sources out there. And I always give a buyer consultation. Come, let's talk. You may not be ready right now. You may be ready in 6 months, maybe ready in a year or 2 years. Let's have that buyer consultation to help you guide you through that process.
Awesome. I just want to add on that, don't be intimidated because you don't need to have the finances down. I don't care how much money you make, right? If you are living, you're paying bills, you have enough money to start, right? You have enough money to get some education and to learn how to be better with your money and to set that goal and to work toward it. And you don't need a certain amount of income in order to think about it. So don't be intimidated by the numbers.
Can I just add two things? One is with the numbers is actually one thing. And listen to yourself. Surround yourself with positive people. I don't know how many times I've had people say, "Oh, but they bought their home with no money," or home ownership wasn't a great thing. Like, surround yourself with positive people,
Yeah.
positive people who are going to push you and just support you in this process. You don't want to be around people who are going to tell you
Negatives.
negative things and who they didn't accomplish the goal, right? Or they accomplished the goal and they're like, girl, that's not for you. You're not ready for that.
That's hater
How do
mentality.
you know?
Yeah,
Listen.
I wanted to also share. Don't forget to learn who you are in the process. One of the things that I didn't realize in the beginning was that I don't like people salesy. Don't be salesy with me. Don't have me feel that you just want my money because I'm done. I'm like, nice to meet you. And they're like, but wait. I'm like, no, I'm good. It's all
I'm the same
good.
way.
No,
I'm the same way.
I'm a
I'll
human
walk away.
being. I want to have a conversation, get to know me, right?
Right.
Because you're selling me probably the highest ticket item that I'll ever have in my whole life,
Right.
right? But if you're gonna treat me like ching, all I see is dollar signs, trust, then I'm walking out. And I needed to learn that because that blocked me from hearing anyone.
Yes.
And even when it was their job, right? Like I needed to tell them, listen, I don't like sales to be person. Can you just treat me like a person, like a human being? I'm clear you get commission, but don't look at me as your commission.
Love it. Love
Right. And so learning myself, because I in doing that, I closed a lot of doors for myself too, because I didn't want to hear what they had to say. But meanwhile, that's their job.
it. Right. Right.
Right. So know yourself, know what you can tolerate, know what you can't, and be upfront with it.
Thank you.
Upfront with it.
I'm sorry we did go a little bit over, but I know that this is a necessary. So we're gonna have to do this again, and we're gonna have to continue this amazing conversation. I thank everyone for being a part of it. If you're watching this on replay, please do hashtag replay where you're watching from and share any questions that you would like us to address when we come back and have this conversation again. Because again, real estate is so vital to our communities, right? There's a reason why we were not allowed to purchase homes many years ago, and that's because we were not allowed to participate in generational wealth in the Americas. So please be mindful of that. Ladies, I thank you. I love you. I cannot wait for us to do another and have some more fun and share some more knowledge, because like Karen and I, even though we're not professionals in real estate, both of us went through the real estate class as you did, Dr. Jackie. That conversation. So it's interesting that all of us bringing a perspective to it. And Melba, thank you so much. I love the fact that I had no idea that you and Karen were Soros and alumni of Hofstra University. It's amazing to have you. I look forward to partnering with you with so much more. And do know, as Dr. Jackie will tell you, my platform is yours. Whatever you need, we got you. If there's something you just want to say, hey, Jerome, I just want to drop something in a 15-minute, let's make it happen. Because I know the information that you would be sharing with us in our community is unnecessary. So thank you all. I hope you all have a safe Saturday, a safe weekend. Happy Resurrection Sunday tomorrow. For all, he has risen. He has, because of him, we have another shot at life. So I thank you all for tuning in. Have a blessed day. And for our people, have a great day. Bye, Black for Life.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.